Welcome back to the e-commerce AI revenue revolution. Now, last time we delved into the world of AI users, agents, and agent social dynamics. And today we're going to expand on our discussion about agents and talk about some examples of ways that you might be able to spot them in your living room. Not a secret agent hiding out, but we're going to demystify how AI agents were once more of a sci-fi fantasy concept, and now they're a little bit more common part of our lives, and shaping those interactions, redefining technology's role. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to John and Ari here to dig in.
Perfect. Great. Okay, so what I'd like to explore is what our relationship, what our interactions with computers are going to look like in just a few years.
Yeah.
So AI is going to move exponentially fast. It's going to get incredibly effective very soon. And we have modified our behaviors with machines over the past 25 years, dumbed it down to have these very simple interactions that are different than what we do when we're interacting with people. And the agents are going to become intelligent enough and general enough, and general is an important part of it, that we'll no longer need to tamper our communications and communicate in a more natural way for us, in a more effective way. So if we look back at our teams, right, you've got a very effective team.
Thank you.
All right. And as a consequence, you interact with that team in a very high bandwidth, super effective way, compared to if you were just tossed into a room with a bunch of people that weren't as senior and that you didn't have long-term relationships, and you would have to interact differently. So what do you do differently in a very effective problem-solving executive level team that you'll be able to expect those similar types of communications interactions to exist for your very effective relationships that you'll have with AI agents in the future?
Yeah, and it really is, you were kind of alluding to this, the difference between the communication of giving you a specific task versus saying, this is a shared goal. Like, for example, we have a major release coming up. So you know what the goal is, and I say, I need you to come up with the new user experience, or you're going to architect it, or whatever your role is. Mm-hmm. And you can do that independently. You're probably going to have to do 10 things. You're going to have to prioritize. You're going to have to work independently for a while. Give me updates, of course, but you have that competence, you have that experience, you know what the tasks are to achieve a goal. Mm-hmm. And when you have a team of people that all have that ability, that's how a team really performs well.
Right. So you're speaking and planning at the goal level.
Yes.
As opposed to the activity level.
Exactly. The task level. Yeah.
The task level, right? So when you think about a more executive person, they are focused on achievements versus activities. Like if you talk to an elite athlete, you go to Tom Brady, it's like, tell me about your season this year. He's not going to say, I did 500 push-ups a week, every week or a day, whatever. He's going to say, I won a Super Bowl. We were the championship, and he's going to talk in terms of accomplishments. And when you're talking to an effective team, an effective team member, you can similarly focus on the goals and not be like, I need you to write a piece of code that does this and to run that specific marketing campaign to sell this. You can say, we need to get 25% market share for this new product launch. And these are the main competitors that we're going to beat. And you don't even have to say that, because the team's like, okay, great. We've got to beat these competitors. We got to get a couple of anchor customers and some case studies. And we need to be live by the time the analyst does their report and so forth. That's a very different high-level relationship.
Totally. And if you think of your executive team for Bridgeline, which I'm on, and other folks in the company, sometimes there'll be that interaction, but for the most part, you're saying, okay, you're trying to increase revenue. That's Carl. John, you're getting this next release out. And you're setting that goal, you're setting that expectation, and you don't have to micromanage every day. what are you doing? Oh, that's not the right line of code, or that's not the right asset for this marketing campaign. Right. You're just saying, look, this is what the goal is, and they can respond accordingly.
Exactly, right? So if you look at, for example, professional services, great, we need $3 million of revenue with a 50% gross margin. And then in terms of, how many people need to be on the team, how much stuff you give to an outside consultant at different rates and utilization, so forth, that all can be handled by that more competent executive.
Yeah. For sure. And then that's the question when you look at AI, for the most part now, not always, but for the most part, when people are playing with ChatGPT or DALL-E or those types of things, it's still very what you call transactional. It's make me a picture of some people on the moon, having a party, and it comes back with a response. So we're kind of wowed right now that, my God, that's an amazing response, but it's still very much transactional. Whereas when you get more to the AI agent, you're giving the agent a goal. It could take a week. Could take a month. It could take 6 months. It could involve 20 different moving pieces and interactions, etc. But since it's an agent and not just responding to a specific prompt, now that could be in the future an interesting team member. When you're thinking across your team and you're using your project management tool, it's not just I'm sending it to individuals. I can actually assign activities within my project management tool to an AI agent.
And it has ongoing contextual awareness. So, our goal, okay, we need to, move $1 million in inventory to a warehouse that is able to have same day delivery on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And it puts together a plan and a supply chain and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And when there's a hurricane coming, not even there yet, it knows the weather and is able to accelerate some of its shipping so that it has a backlog in case the roads are closer to change the road that it's on. So the plan can even continue to adjust, or the activity will continue to adjust while the plan is being executed over time.
Well, that goes back to your original question, what makes an effective team? You're right, things are going to change. Maybe the goals change slightly. There's some other market force that can adjust it. And when you have an effective team, they will know how to adjust based on those different criteria or whatever else it might be. And to your point, will AI get to a point where, since you're working backwards from a goal, not the specific task I'm giving you, but back from a goal, it will understand some of the other priorities or parameters may have changed. I might need to adjust my 1 month plan or whatever those list of items are related to the goal. So you're right. It's evolving. It's changing over time. It's understanding.
And it's interesting because now the agent also has to be, I use the term sensitive to our needs and capabilities. So it's like, okay, and I also need to have, reporting and continual information as to how this plan is progressing, right? So we put actually a lot of effort on our weekly management reports into figuring out what the key small nuggets are, because everyone we're reporting to are humans who can only digest a certain amount of stuff. So we have to think about the AI agent's going to have to decide what is the most pertinent information, what is our limited capacity, and feed us that information back, as opposed to what it would do with another AI agent that it may interact with, which is just dump a data log.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what do you think, Ari, maybe more on the personal side here in an interaction? Obviously, you have an executive team. You have relationships with those people. These are diligent people that are sincere and trying to work, but they have ups and downs and everything else. Compared to potentially in the future, one of your executive leaders is an AI. It doesn't feel anything. You may have said, look, the deadline is by the end of this month. And we always hear these stories about hallucinations or whatever. And it just might say, oh, it's due tomorrow. Then I'm just stopping here. How do you interact at that level? You want an effective team. You understand there's always that give and take, but this is just an AI. How do you overcome that?
Right. That's going to be a very tricky problem. On the one hand, your agent is going to need to be continually trained over time. To not do things like, well, if I miss a deadline, I'm just going to stop, rather than like, okay, well, being a day late is better than not doing it at all. And on the other hand, we're going to need to modify our own behaviors to know that we're interacting with agent that is autistic or, has Asperger's to a certain extent.
Totally.
And might not have the sensibilities that we have. That's going to be a very tricky dynamic.
Totally.
And I'm sure a lot of people are going to feel that they were let down by this, sociopathic agent that like dropped the ball because it, hey, and that's like, one of the examples that you see a lot of that you hear about this. I think the example is you have an agent who is tasked with making the most paper clips that it can, and no one gives it any additional information. It's like, wow, the best way to make paper clips is I got to kill all the humans because they're getting in the way. And then I can take the metal off of their rings and their belts and melt it down and make more paper clips, right?
Right.
So it is going to become very challenging. And we're going to have to put, we spoke last time about guardrails that are outside of the intelligence itself so that they can't be sort of corrupted by it and they can put stoppers on it. But in the very near future, when these agents start becoming a bigger part of our own executive teams, somehow we're going to need to have those guardrails. And not just part of our executive teams, the personal assistant agents that are even helping, just a non-executive do their shopping is going to need to have some guardrails on it as well.
Yeah. Of course, we can't see the future and you can't know exactly what's going to happen. My guess is I definitely imagine a world where I'm using some type of project tracker, project management tool, what have you. And yes, I'm sending assignments or goals to individuals and then some to AI. I can't imagine in any kind of midterm scenario where that manager, the one who is kind of staying on top of everything and taking into the account the personal relationships you have with others, that is going to be the AI agent who is managing a team of humans. I can't imagine that. It probably could happen, but that I just don't see that. How would you like it if the chairman of the board for your company is an AI agent?
He's an agent,
Can you imagine that?
World? Yeah. So I can envision goals being, maybe the word set's not right, but being formulated with agents or multiple systems, right? You're going to have these systems that are helping to set goals and so forth. But in the near term, I would expect that you would need a human to be sharing those goals and managing those goals to other humans.
Mm-hmm.
And the goals might be very much created by that agent, but I think they need to be delivered by a human anytime soon.
Yeah.
I'm trying to come up with a scenario where that might not be the case. You're sitting there and you're just getting tasks messaged to you. Do this, do that, do this. And you don't even know what's on the other side. You just
say, what's the magic word?
Every time you do it.
Yeah, there's no magic word.
There's no magic word. So what about that transactional situation where you're just a consultant and you'll get an email that says, write an article for 1,000 words and you get $1,000. And you write your article and you submit it and you get $1,000. I guess in those totally sort of work at home scenarios, maybe that'll be one of the first spots.
Yeah.
Where you don't know and don't care.
Yeah. Or in that scenario, really it was a human, kind of more behind the scenes. So maybe you're one removed. So maybe middle managers indeed could be these AI agents, but unlikely. I mean, who knows? But unlikely it's really like the real thought leader is going to be the AI.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of effective teams, I think back to in the early days, I read one of the books from Bill Gates, and in the early days of Microsoft, they had two things that stuck out in my mind. One was high bandwidth communication.
Okay.
Microsoft was very proud of the fact that they had created efficient words for complicated tasks that they were performing, and that their teams were so well connected that they could express things super effectively. And then the second one was that they were using email back in the 80s throughout the organization, and were one of the early adopters to like really manage their business with email.
So it's all their fault.
It's their fault.
The world right now.
There's probably a lot of stuff that's Microsoft's fault, and I'm sure they're proud of all of them. Yeah. But for the effective interactions with the team, you also have these tools and communication styles.
Yeah.
That there's probably a lot of business consultants that have helped to cultivate and put best practices around email and communication, SMART goals in the MBA program.
Yeah.
You get an MBA, they probably taught you about SMART goals. Those will be very interesting areas that are mutual sociology study between the human and machine interactions that are going to create effective working relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy world ahead.
It is. It is. Okay, so we're going to wrap this one up with those thoughts. You're going to need to partner with your AI agent in human terms and do so effectively. We're going to hope that the agents develop a certain level of sensibility, and I expect that they will, to communicate back in human terms and effectively, and take into account our limited capacity to deal with the amount of information that they might have in the background. And no longer will we have these transactional relationships with machines where it's do this activity, now do this activity.
Right.
Here's the goal. It may be a long-term goal.
Right.
It may be situational that has different activities depending on the environment. And that's the near-term future. That's this decade.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
All right. We get to go on vacation.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Well, huge appreciation, John and Ari, for your insights for today's discussion. I know we have journeyed deep into sort of the transformation of AI, its impact in our daily lives. So thank you to everyone who joined us today, and can't wait to have you guys back here for the next one. All right.